The question was, what kind of passion of mine does writing this book represent? The answer is, I have no idea. I could take a guess. If I were to blabber on about what passion this and he's okay. I have a passion for horror. I love scary movies. I love scary books. I love history. I love reading about history. I used to work for the History Channel, as a matter of fact, producing documentaries for the History Channel. So history plus horror, I guess. Those are two of my personal passions. Telling interesting stories. Does that count as a passion? Writing? I don't know, but definitely, I'm going to stick with my first answer, which is I have no idea. Yes, we have a question now, and it's going to be on a microphone.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Who do you think would be harder to kill, a vampire or a zombie?
1,000% a vampire. Zombies are probably the easiest creatures to kill in all of horrordom. And let me tell you why. And now, I know in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, it's like, Elizabeth Bennet's flying around with her katana sword and kung-fuing zombies, and she's getting herself, surrounded all the time, and that's ridiculous. Because real zombies, just so you know, if you ever encounter an actual zombie, rule number 1 is this: do not run, do not panic. Step 1, when you encounter a zombie, is remind yourself that you are a human being. And that is a zombie. And zombies move something like this. I maybe would reach the end of the stage by 9 o'clock. And they're not that bright. They only have one thing on their minds, which is eating brains and making more zombies. So, zombies are baffled by concepts like doorknob. Vampires, on the other hand, some of them are 400, 500, 600 years old and have memorized, passages of Shakespeare backwards, forwards in Latin and have, PhDs in metaphysics. And, they're smart. They're savvy. They're sexy in some, books. I will say 2 things about sexy vampires. 1, I am proud to say that my vampires do not sparkle. And 2, in literature, I feel like we've gone this way towards the kissing vampires side of the needle. I think it's time we go back toward the killing vampires side of the needle. So, not that I begrudge Twilight, anything. It's, whatever gets young people reading, I'm all for it. But enough with the kissing vampires. Question.
So with that in mind, are you a Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Has anyone read the book? Anyone read Vampire Hunter yet? I am a Team Henry. Team Henry Sturgis. Henry Sturgis is the cool vampire in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So neither. Yes?
Lincoln was a beautiful writer. Was it difficult keeping true to his writing style as well as your own?
Yeah, it was the most difficult part of the book. It just as it was when I now 2 books in a row: Jane Austen, Abraham Lincoln. I've kind of picked the 2 hardest writers you can possibly pick, and Jane Austen's a phenomenal writer, maybe the best in the English language of the Regency period, and Abraham Lincoln is definitely one of maybe the top gifted orators ever and one of the gifted writers of his age. And it was very hard. One of the things I did in researching this was I read a lot of Lincoln's speeches and I read a lot of Lincoln's letters to try to get the rhythms of how Abe, expressed himself on paper and expressed himself in private and in public. And so that was a very difficult part of the book. Yes.
Did you map out the entire story and then fill in all the details, or do you write it a page at a time and just follow where your thoughts take you?
If I did that, I would still be writing. And the story would be about whales or something by now. Like if I just followed like a train of thought, I'm not that kind of writer. There are some writers who can sit down at the typewriter or the computer screen and they can just say, all right, start. And by the time they stop typing, they have a finished book that makes sense. I'm not that kind of guy. I can't organize my thoughts that way. I wish I could, but I wrote a 50-page outline for this book, chapter by chapter. I knew what facts I needed to supplement what I was about to write. And I did go page by page once I started writing the book, but otherwise, I had to, with keeping the history of Lincoln in order, with keeping, all the facts and the dates and the generals and it just, my brain would melt if I had to keep that, together in my head. Who drove here from out of town? Anyway, by show of hands. Anybody drive in from Chicago? Well, that's good, because that would be crazy. Oh, you drove in from Chicago? You people are nuts. Come on, tell me this was not worth it. You already know that. You're already regretting that 4-hour drive back. Yeah, come on. Yeah. I drove 4 hours for this. He came out from behind a screen with smoke. Who does he think he is? Yes, question.
What type of music did you listen to while you wrote the Vampire and the Zombie books?
Oh, interesting. Movie soundtracks generally is what I write to. I have a whole. I think if you just press soundtrack on my iTunes, the play time is something like 14 days or something. It's just I collect movie soundtracks because they're what I love to write to, and I have playlists according to mood. If it's like a fight scene, I have a bunch of action scores that I write to, and if if Abe's mother is dying, then I have some down music, and if there I write to movie scores. I always have written to movie scores. I write always with earphones in to just tune everything else out, because otherwise, I'm so easily distractible that, again, I'd be writing about whales. Or, if I listen, I heard that Stephen King likes to listen to rock music, like blaring rock music, Metallica and things like that when he writes. And I can't do that because it's just too, I don't know, I need it to be in the background. And I would just start writing the lyrics out of whatever I was listening to subconsciously. And then I'd be in real trouble. Question?
Were you working on any other projects at the same time as writing this book?
Yes. I went a little nuts writing this book. It wasn't ideally how one goes about writing a book. My day job is I work in television. I'm a writer, I'm a TV producer, and so right about the time that I started outlining Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, I got a call from MTV, and they said, I had made a pilot for them of this scripted show that's kind of like a new Wonder Years, updated Wonder Years, scripted comedy for them. And they called me right about the time I was starting to write this book and said, we want 12 episodes. Can you write them? Start writing. And so what I did was, in TV, you have a bunch of writers who sit in a room together and, just spend all day, eating takeout food and pitching jokes to each other. And it was my job to run that room. And so I would go to the office every day, 8 o'clock in the morning, well, 9 o'clock in the morning, let's be honest here. 9 o'clock in the morning. We would sit there all day, and the show's about a kid in high school, so in modern day. So I would sit there all day, and we would just make each other laugh with our, jokes about high school and about absurd situations and everything. And then I would go home, and on my way home at about 7 p.m., I would get a big old cup of coffee, stop and get a big old cup of coffee or a Monster Energy drink or something, and I would sit down at my computer, and I would kiss my wife, and I would kiss my baby, and I would say, see you later, and I would write until 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I would take that time as I drank my coffee to sort of leave the modern-day high school world behind and transition into the gothic vampire hunting world of the 1850s and 60s.